as the war between Israel and Hamas continues with no signs of a setback. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced on Monday, August 19th, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to an American bridging proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. The next step is for Hamas to agree, Mr. Blinken added.
From here, I'm going on to Egypt and Qatar. These are our two critical partners in this effort to get the ceasefire agreement over the finish line, to get the hostages home, to put everyone on a better path to lasting peace and security. And so I look forward to consulting with President Sisi, with the Emir, Sheikh Tamim, with other critical colleagues in both countries on the immediate steps ahead, and in particular, what needs to be done to ensure that Hamas comes along. In a very constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, he confirmed to me that Israel accepts the bridging proposal, that he supports it. It's now incumbent on Hamas to do the same. And then the parties, with the help of the mediators, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, have to come together and complete the process of reaching clear understandings about how they'll implement the commitments. I should have mentioned as well, Prime Minister Netanyahu committed to sending his senior expert team back to either Doha or to Egypt to try to complete this process. For example, about polio, because we very much share the concern about the possibility of its reemergence, and we've been working on a detailed plan to make sure that those who need to be vaccinated against it can get vaccinated, and we're working with the Israeli government on that, and I believe that we'll be able to move forward with a plan to do that in the coming weeks. It is urgent, it is vital. Yes, it did. It did, and this has been also something that's been a deep and ongoing concern for us. Violence, intimidation, as well, of the Palestinian community in the West Bank. There was an incident, as you know, just a few days ago that I think has galvanized attention from the Israeli government, and that is critical. And we look to see action taken to prevent this kind of violence, action taken to hold people who are responsible for it accountable.
Will the US's bridging proposal help end the Cold War? Could this be the beginning of resolving the conflict? The two leaders met in Tel Aviv, where Mr. Netanyahu described the talks as positive and reiterated his commitment to an American proposal that addresses Israel's security needs while securing the release of hostages held by Hamas. However, both Israeli and Hamas leaderships remain skeptical about the ceasefire deal, with each accusing the other of obstructing progress. Mr. Blinken emphasized the urgency of reaching a truce and a deal for hostage release, warning that further delays could result in more hostages losing their lives. He is set to travel to Egypt and Qatar to push the negotiations forward. In the meantime, the humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate amidst ongoing Israeli military actions. Israel reported the elimination of dozens of Hamas terrorists and the destruction of compounds and tunnels used by Hamas. Palestinian media reported multiple casualties from Israeli airstrikes. The conflict began following an unprecedented attack by Hamas on southern Israel on October 7th, leading to an Israeli military campaign in Gaza. Since then, more than 40,130 people have been killed in Gaza, according to Hamas-run health authorities. While a ceasefire in November saw the release of some hostages, over 100 are still held by Hamas. The US is pushing for a ceasefire agreement, but significant differences remain, particularly over Israel's military presence in Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners. The situation remains tense, with no immediate resolution in sight. Confirming Netanyahu accepts his deal proposal, Blinken says Hamas must now do the same. Blinken says Israel oaks a plan to break the ceasefire impasse and urges Hamas to do the same. The high-stakes negotiations have gained urgency in recent days as diplomats hope an agreement will deter Iran and Lebanon's Hezbollah from avenging the targeted killings of two top militants that were blamed on Israel. The escalating tensions have raised fears of an even more destructive regional war. Blinken spoke after holding a 2.5-hour meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier in the day, and will travel to Egypt and Qatar for further negotiations. The three mediators have spent months trying to end the war in Gaza, with the talks repeatedly stalling.